Welcome to our weekly Forex market analysis, and this is for trading on the week of September 17th, so 17th to the 21st, 2018. Just a quick disclaimer before we get started. This is for educational purposes only. Trading is a risky business, and there can be losses, so just be mindful of that. So as we get started, we will start off by taking a look at our calendar here, our Forex Factory calendar. What's going on? Sorry. Okay. This week we have Monday, not a ton of data. There is final CPI numbers coming out for the Eurozone. These tend to be important, even though it's not marked in red. These are important numbers, so we have to pay attention to that. Australia, here we have monetary policy meeting minutes. Australian Reserve Bank of Australia did not make any changes to the interest rate or the monetary policy last time, but these minutes can indicate if they are starting to rethink that. So these will be important for Australia here. We have ECB President Draghi speaking. So anytime there's a central banker speaking, that is an important event to keep in mind. So that will be important. So a lot of monetary policy type stuff here. Then we have monetary policy on Tuesday we have for Japan. And Japan has had a very loose monetary policy forever. Negative interest rates. They're not really looking to change that this time here as well. But again, comments that they have about the state of the economy, how they see things proceeding, especially with the trade wars and things like that are going on currently, that will have an impact because the trade wars will have an impact upon Japanese yen. When there are trade wars or overall there is instability in the markets or in the environment, Japanese yen tends to be impacted by that. So when US says that we are going to engage with talks with China around trade, that's a good sign. And then Japanese yen will drop and everything else will go up against it. On the other hand, if we hear, so next week we'll have more comments around that. If we hear that the trade talks are not going well, in that case, that will be positive for Japanese yen, which means the Japanese yen crosses will drop. So Swiss franc, Japanese yen, they are safe haven currencies and do get impacted by these type of developments. So Japan may comment on that, or they may express concern around that type of stuff. Now, Japan doesn't want their currency to go up because then the Japanese exports become more expensive and it has a negative impact on Japan. And then, so that's why we see Japanese Bank of Japan tend to sort of comment on things, and they try to move the market or manage the market by making comments, and therefore they manage their currency by making comments. So that's something that Bank of Japan, they used to do a lot of intervention in the market where they would depreciate their currency. They've gotten a lot of flack for it. So they have done less of that in the last over the last little while. However, there is nothing stopping anybody from doing verbal intervention, which means they'll just put comments out there which move the market. So be mindful of that. And then with British pound here, British pound went up on comments around positive Brexit developments. Now we do have CPI numbers. If the CPI is inflation. When inflation is showing an upwards trend, that's usually good for the currency. But with the CPI here for British pound here, it's been doing well. So this is where the central bank wants it, between 2 to 3%, and this is where it is currently. So if it just holds stable, that will be good for British pound. If the number is positive here, that will be good for British pound as well, because then there will be more pressure on Bank of England to raise interest rates. So anytime these numbers come out positive, they will have positive impacts, especially with this number here, because it just starts, then all the market participants will start thinking that Bank of England will have to raise rates. They have already done one interest rate hike, and good numbers can put more pressure on Bank of England. So this is why this number is so important. And then we have ECB President Draghi speaking once again. And the more they speak, the less impact it has on the markets. But again, any comment that is not in line with what has been previously said can have an impact. So that's why these speeches need to be kept in mind. GDP numbers here will be important for New Zealand. New Zealand dollar has dropped quite a bit over the last little while here. And if the numbers are negative, then that will have even more of a negative impact. But if this comes in line with expectation, a forecasted value here, now that will be positive for New Zealand dollar there. And then we have another central bank here. We have Swiss National Bank monetary policy assessment. Again, Swiss National Bank is another bank that tends to intervene in the markets, although they haven't done that in the last little while after the big intervention or big change that they had made. But again, we have to keep in mind what their comments are, because comments will drive the market. And so this will be important here if you're trading the Swiss franc. Retail sales number for British pound, again, will be important, because if the numbers start to go down, then it can have negative impact on the currency. So that's for Thursday. And then on Friday, we have a whole bunch of PMI numbers out of the Eurozone. Again, PMI numbers are precursor to retail sales, so they're leading indicators from fundamental perspective. So these are important, even though they're not hugely market moving the same way that CPI is, for example, but these are the numbers that get watched quite a bit. And then CPI number, again, this will be important for Canadian dollar here, because so there's no forecasted number here, but CPI numbers, again, positive numbers will put pressure on the central bank to raise, or the market participants will start expecting an interest rate hike based on positive CPI numbers or inflation numbers that come out. So this will be important to watch for Canadian dollar here. All right, so let's move on to the charts now. So in terms of our charts, we'll start off with euro dollar here. So euro was interesting here. We saw that it was right into this support resistance, right into the top of this range that price has been trading in for quite some time. We talked about this level a while ago, and when price was right here actually, and now we see that price came close to that level and then bounced off of that. And that's why this here was a good place for a short. But anyway, so that's from daily perspective. So let's take a look at it from our weekly here. So daily, we saw basically what we saw here was that price is trading in a range. Price went into the top of the range, and we saw a big drop off of that. Now, if you take a look at our weekly here, we see that price has come down, went sideways, and it hasn't quite done this move, hasn't completed this move. Instead, it came back up here. At this point, it's back into that range that it was trading in. So if you were to take these other levels away, okay, so this is what we have. Price is trading in the range at this time. So what can we expect here? So at this point, I would look for a range-bound move here as well. There is bullishness in euro still. So we have large pin on the top, but there is bullishness in the candle. So in terms of what we can expect, we could see one of these moves. So price could push up into either that trend line or into the top of this range and then drop from here. So currently it is range bound, has a bullishness still in it. So I will look for it to go into the top of the range. And right now I will look for a range bound move in that. Now, if price were to break out of that range, and it can do that in that case, if price breaks out to the top, we're looking for a pullback and then a further move to the upside. Otherwise, if it breaks down and then I would be looking for price to go through, pull back, and then do another drop, because sometimes what can happen is price can just do a fake out and then come back into the range. So right now the bias is range bound with a slight bullishness in it still. Pound dollar here. Pound is, let's take a look here. Pound is looking bullish right now. So the positive Brexit comments pushed British pound up. So we have this down move. Now it's into this resistance here. And if you take a look at the daily here, price came into the support resistance level and then bounced off of that. From weekly perspective, this is bullish, but we are into resistance. So at this point, the bias is bullish. But if the price is not able to break that resistance level, then we could see price drop from here like that. But the pound move will be mostly due to Brexit comments. So whatever sentiment it gets put out from Brexit negotiations, that will drive the market. So if you get comments about Brexit negotiations not going so well, that can cause it to drop. But if we hear more comments like we have been hearing about Brexit negotiations going well, they're close to an agreement, or comments about how EU is looking to kind of give on the whole Ireland border issue, those comments are positive and will push the British pound up. So it will move because of that, and we could see it go all the way up here. So target will be 1.3370 for British pound. But with caution here, if price is not able to break through 1.3130 level, then it could turn. But right now, bias is to the upside, and the target would be 1.3370 for pound dollar. Aussie dollar here. So we had pullbacks in a lot of pairs. And with this one, again, it went into the support resistance level and bounced off of that. So from weekly perspective, we have bullishness in this right now. For the last couple of weeks, it's traded in this range. So here, what I would expect is for price to go and test the 0.7230 level again. And if it holds below, for it to drop, because overall bias here is still to the downside, as we can see. And if we see positive numbers, those could push the Aussie up, but overall bias is to the downside. But the weekly candle has bullishness in it, so it could go retest the high of this range that it's been trading in for the last couple of weeks. In terms of our targets, the target would be to the downside 0.7050 level. So again, I will look for a push up and then a drop. And if price breaks down through this 0.7090 level, then looking at 0.7050, and it could potentially go lower here as well, back down to 0.6940 level to the downside. But the bias is, overall bias is bearish for Aussie dollar. For our New Zealand dollar here as well, the bias is to the downside. We have seen price drop. I'm just going to get rid of some of these support resistance levels because they're not needed anymore. Okay, so here we are. We see that there is some bullishness in the candle there, but overall bias is to the downside. Price went and tested this previous support resistance level, as we can see, and then has bounced off of that. So we have a bit of a pin bar here. Now, there is bullishness in that pin bar. So as a result of that, we could see a bit of a push up again in this one as well, and then a drop. Excuse me. So looking for price to basically be bearish, but I would look for price to push up higher. So we'll take a look at dollar index. Dollar index has been dropping, but on Friday we saw a turnaround in that. So we'll talk about that from overall US dollar crosses perspective. But here, this is looking bearish. We have a pin. So I'm looking for a price to drop. Target would be 0.6450 to the downside. And we could see if price breaks down there below this level here, then we could see it drop further. 0.6380 will be the target to the downside then. Dollar CAD has been interesting. It has been driven around because of price of oil. Right now, currently, it is range bound. As we can see, price went to touch the high, and then it wasn't able to break out of that range. And now we have seen price drop. So as a result of that, bias is bearish here as well. But we would need to keep an eye on price of oil and see what's going on there. But from weekly perspective, this is looking bearish, and bias will be to the downside. 1.2900 will be the target here, which is the base of that pin. Euro pound has been trading in this range for the last few days here. And from our weekly perspective, looking bearish here. Last week, there was a pin here, and as we have seen, a bearish move as a result of that. Now, bias is still to the downside, and 0.8800 will be the target to the downside for Euro pound. Euro Swiss franc here. This one, similar thing here. We had a pin bar on this actually previously, and we came right into the support, and price bounced off to the upside, but it got rejected. And as you can see, went all the way into that support resistance level and then got rejected. So this is where we are currently, and we see that price did drop from there. So we have a large pin and a small candle body, which shows there are sellers that are pushing the price lower, but overall this one is right now it's sideways. So similar thing here as well. If euro starts to push up, it could go higher, but I would look for a bit of a push to the upside. Bias is still to the downside, and target with this one would be 1.1100. So bearish bias for Euro Swiss franc. This one here is looking bullish, but it is right into resistance there. And the move this week with the pound just took out all these few weeks worth of moves, which wasn't very much there. But looking bullish at the moment into resistance, as we can see. This is strong support and resistance level. Pound Swiss franc will be what happens here will be based on really what happens with British pound. And a lot of that right now is being driven by Brexit comments, and it will continue to do so. So I would keep a close eye on the newsfeed to see what really is going on there, and see what's coming out to drive those prices. But right now, huge impact from Brexit. Looking positive though. So I would look for a break of the high before really going bullish on that, but bias is bullish, and the next target would be 1.2900. So bias is bullish for pound Swiss franc. But if it does not break this high here, then it could turn around and still stay range bound, because it has been range bound for 5 weeks, last 5 weeks. So it could continue to do so, and we could just see similar move in here as well. So we could see this type of thing, and a price goes sideways. So there's a lot of back and forth going on in a lot of these currencies. There's really no clear trend in place at the moment. We have seen a lot of back and forth, mainly driven by comments and things like that. US dollar hasn't been as bullish, so that's why the trend is not quite there at this moment. So we just have to wait and see if it falls back in line. Same thing here, a very range-bound market, back and forth with dollar Swiss franc as well. Price has traded in this range for the last 3 weeks. We do have pins on top, and that suggests that price is likely to drop. So we have drop, pull back, and I will look for a drop here. So target would be 0.9580. to the downside, and looking for price to come down here. Now, important to note that 3 times for the last 3 weeks, price was not able to break the low, which means we could get another push to the upside. And so be mindful of that. Price could just come and test it one more time, but the bias is to the downside, and the likelihood of this breaking to the downside is there. So bias is bearish for dollar Swiss franc. Yen here. Yen is being yen crosses are being driven by the comments that came out in terms of trade, US wanting to talk with China in terms of tariffs. So that caused the Japanese yen to drop. Plus, British pound has been very bullish, which has been pushing a or it has been bullish because of Brexit comments. So combination of the two has caused pound yen to be bullish for this week. So bias is bullish, and next target here would be 149.50 level, which is we're then looking into these candlesticks here back, or this support resistance here. So bias is bullish. And if you take a look at it, it's been sort of kind of back into this range once again as well. So overall bias is bullish, looking for 148.20 level and then 149.80 level to the upside. So bullish for pound yen. Euro yen, so same thing with US being open to talks with China. That is positive news for the markets, and as a result of that, we have seen all the yen crosses move up. So this one is right now is sideways. So for the last 3 weeks, it's gone sideways. And this is where the bias for last week was bearish, and we were looking for a drop, but market has not done what it's supposed to do, or what we expect it to do. And as a result of that, there's been a lot of back and forth in the market, unfortunately. So with this one, we're back into the range now. So this one could go sideways, but there is bullishness in this pair here as well, which means that it could move up higher. So what I would look for here would be the market to show us what it wants to do. If the price goes into the high of this range and then rejects from there, this would be bearish. I would look for a price to come back into the range and potentially move towards the bottom of the range. However, if we have positive comments and positive data and whatnot, then price could just break through here. And I would look for a retest of this level and a hold above for it to continue upwards. So currently it's range bound with bullishness. So it could break out to the upside. So we have to be mindful of that move to the upside. But if it doesn't, then just expecting it to be range bound. Dollar yen here, same thing here as well, looking bullish, and we are moving higher. So any comments in regards to the trade talks will be bearish for yen, which means the yen crosses will move up. So on the flip side, if we get comments about trade talks either not being set up or not going properly, or any kind of negative comments about that, that will be negative, and we could see this drop. So again, this will be driven by whatever's going on in terms of those trade talks. So keep an eye again on the news, because things will change. But overall, looking bullish. Next target would be 113.25. So bias is bullish here. And then we have Aussie yen, and Aussie yen is looking bullish. Sorry, give me 1 second, please. Sorry about that. Kids not happy. Okay, so continuing on, we have, all right, so with this one here, we've got a slight bias here to the downside, but it is bullish. It's looking bullish. It's pulling back. So with this one, I would look for a price to go up into 8,100 level, but I think it could go up higher as well, again, depending on how those talks proceed. And it could go into 81.80. But overall, Aussie is not so bullish. Aussie is actually bearish with the overall trend. And as a result of that, we could see price actually come up and then bounce off of this trend line here as well. So that's one thing to be to be mindful of. Another one is if it does go through this support resistance level, I would look for price to go into this high of 81.80, and then we could see a reaction here. So similar to what it did at this level, drop, pull back, and this time it could pull back even higher. So this would give us this range sideways move here. So right now the bias is looking slightly bullish, but overall bias is bearish for Aussie yen. So like I said, a lot of pairs are doing this move where it's not, they're pulling back and they're not trending at this point. So that's something we have to be mindful of, because they may not do what we expect them to do at the moment. Okay, so with this one, this is a double bottom type of scenario here. Price came into the support. As we can see, there are lots of times price came into the support and bounced off of that here. And we have similar thing here. So we could see price go up higher and even into the top of this range again. So we are sideways here. So for all these weeks, price has been sideways. So now I will look for price to go up and potentially into this 74.96 or what 75.00 level, and then react at this level. So range bound for New Zealand yen with the bullish bias going towards the top of the range. CAD yen, big bullish move, largely due to bullish Canadian dollar here. So we have a big move, still range bound, as we can see for last multiple weeks here. We have been range bound here. So at this point, I will look for price to go and test the high of the range at 85.50 level. And our bias for dollar CAD is to the downside. So if that happens, which means this can break out, and in that case, we're looking for 87.80. So this is sideways here as well with the bullish bias. Once price breaks out of the range, 88.80 would be my target to the upside. Okay, so let's go into our gold here. Gold. This is the daily chart. Let's take a look at weekly. It has been sideways as well for the last 3 weeks. We do have a big pin here, so that suggests bearishness here. So I would look for price to drop. The target here would be, actually maybe I shouldn't have dropped that. Okay, so first target would be 1182.50, and then second target would be 1160 here. But again, it is sideways like many pairs. If it does not break the low, chances are it will go back up into the range. So just have to be careful there. Oil is sideways as well. It did go up all the way up. So if you take a look at the daily here, we saw this big move to the upside, came into the next support and resistance level here, and then we had a pin and it dropped from there. So here, from a weekly perspective, we have a pin here as well. So at this point, this one could drop, but because there is bullishness in the candle, it is a green candle. So this one could get pushed up. So I would look for that type of a move or all the way up there and see how price does. But right now it is a range bound to range bound in this range here, and we have to see a breakout before we get a real direction here. Let's take a quick look at copper here. Copper weekly, again, range bound for the last few weeks. It's been range bound, bearish pin. So looking for it to drop towards the bottom of this range. 2.53 will be the target for copper. Let's take a peek at what the Bitcoin is doing. Bitcoin, here we go. So from the daily here, it has pushed back up. We're into this support here. It has pushed back up. So we have this bit of a move to the upside. However, this could be just be a pullback, and that's something to keep in mind. So we have to, so there isn't a strong move is what I'm trying to say. So with this one, it could pull back all the way into the next support and resistance at 71.45, or it could turn around here as well because the moves are very, very small. So from daily perspective, we see that it has turned around right in from the bottom here. Now, if it pushes up, the next target would be 68.43. And then after that, 71.45, which is where we had that big gap here. So right now, I would say bullish with caution for Bitcoin. And let's take a peek at our dollar index here. All right, so from weekly perspective, let's take a quick look at daily first, and we'll go into the weekly here. So as we can see, price came into the bottom here and we had talked about this in the trade room. So price came into the support here and bounced off of that. So right now, again, it's sideways, right? It keeps going back and forth. And now we have seen a bounce off of that. So a bit of a double bottom type of a scenario. Price has bounced off. We have, from a daily perspective, bullish engulfing candle, which means it can go higher. So going to our weekly here, let's take a quick peek here. So from the weekly perspective, we are completely sideways here. We have a bearish candle close. We have pin in the bottom and right off of that support level. So it is sideways at the moment. But the thing to remember here is going back to the daily candle here. This is an interesting time because we have this head and shoulders type of formation. Now we do need to see where it will go because US dollar has been bullish. But if it breaks below this 93.70 level here. So first it would, if it drops through 94.40, then we're looking for 94.11 and 93.70. Now, if it breaks through that, then chances are like there's a lot of room for it to drop. And that could just completely change the outlook for US dollar. And we will be going into elections soon, midterm elections there, which will have an impact on the market as well. So interesting time for the US dollar. From a daily perspective, we have this head and shoulders formation. So there's your head, left shoulder, and right shoulder. Now, as we can see, it stayed in that left shoulder, this range for quite some time. So this is not to say that tomorrow US dollar is going to drop, but we have to keep this in mind and see how dollar index performs because it will directly translate into how the US dollar crosses will drop. So going back to our weekly, from a weekly perspective, it's sideways at the moment. There is bearishness in it. So at this point, we just have to maybe keep a closer eye on it on the daily and see how it breaks out. Because if it breaks to the downside, we have this big drop here. It could drop. So 93.20 or 93.70 will be 93.70 and then 93.20. And then we have this big drop because there's that big rise there as well. And even on the weekly, we can see that head and shoulders sort of trying to form right now, but it hasn't completely finished yet because it will finish once price has really gotten through this 93.20 level, because at the moment, right now, this one is just in this sideways type of move. It's range bound. So that's between, like in this range, like in this area, it's still range bound. Oops. Yes, there we go. Actually, horizontal line. So if we were to put our line here, that's our range at the moment. We have price going sideways. And if it breaks out of this, that's when it will really go to the downside. So it could chop around here, just like it chopped around here for a while. It could chop around here for a while as well. So I would keep a closer eye. Right now, it does have that bearishness to it, but then it bounced off of there as well. So again, like I said, prices have been going back and forth in all the different currencies. So keep that in mind. Any questions before we come to the end of our analysis here? Okay, no questions. So I will make a quick announcement. All right, so a quick announcement here. I'm currently running a promotion on the trade room here. Normally the trade room is $97 a month. Currently I'm running a yearly promotion, which is $997. So $1,000, basically you save 2 months worth of trade room. And as well, you get a bonus of my course that I currently sell for $497. So if you just wanted to buy the course, you can just go to the website and buy the course for $497. But now you can buy both of those. Basically, you're getting the course for free, or you can think that you're getting the trade room for $47 a month or even less. Because you're getting it for $997 for the year. I am making some changes because I am refocusing my efforts and my focus. Basically, I'm going to change the focus and focus just on the trade copier and the trade room and not really do an independent course or any one-on-one mentoring. So I'm just reducing and narrowing my focus. And as a result of that, my prices will go up because I want to be a little bit more selective in terms of who I work with, because I feel like I'm getting pulled in too many different directions and I need to really focus on my trading. So as such, the prices of trade room will be going up because I want people to be committed to it. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It takes a lot of time and effort, and I just want to work with people who are really committed to it. So it will go up, but if you sign up now, you'll get the same. I'm redoing the course. I'm making it more comprehensive, so you will get the new course as well for this price. And basically, what goes into the trade room will be, we do this market overview with everybody on the weekend, but in terms of daily, I do a similar daily market analysis where we go into the daily chart as well as the hourly chart, and we look at the levels that we need to trade from. And I also will be sending out a spreadsheet with the different levels marked, so you can choose to take those trades because all the analysis is done. So you can do the analysis with me. The calls will be recorded and you'll get a link to the calls. These are not available for everybody. They're only available for trade room members. And then we'll also, I also do call trades in the trade room. So last week called 3 trades, all of them were successful. So those trades that I call, you'll get the trades there as well. So you'll get my trade setup with stop loss and take profit targets. So one of the trades that was called that I haven't done, I've been trying to do more of the trades, like showing the trades and why I took the setup and so forth. So one of the trades that we had done in the trade room on Thursday night going into Friday, that I still, I'll go back and do the explanation on it. So it was this one here, took a trade after this, once this candle closed here and the stop was up there, and this looking for this inefficient move to come back, and it went right into the target here. So those are some of the trades. I will do more of these videos because they help everyone look at why the trade was taken and so forth. But basically that's what is going on. So let me just go back to where the trade copier here. Okay, so that's what I am looking at. So if you're interested in joining the trade room, you can go to this link here, bit.ly yearly trade room, and you will get that special. It will only be till end of September when all my prices and everything will change. Like I said, because I'm realigning everything. All right, so I will, there's a question, Euro Yen had a double top. Could that be a sell? Yeah, Euro Yen had a double top and that was a sell. Let's go back to the chart here, but we'll have to see how that plays out. So let's take a look. Euro Yen had double top right here. I'm thinking you're talking about this. But right now, so this move, I would look for this move to get filled, but markets have been a little bit, like I said, they're being driven by the comments and stuff like that. So this one could go up, but I would look for price to come back into the support resistance and really fill this move in. So my target here will be the S1. But like I said, because there are comments around trade wars and talks and things like that, so I would keep that in mind. And the call is being recorded. So if you miss something, yes, please just go back and you will be able to see that. So again, I will wrap it up here. If you guys are interested in joining the trade room, we are going into good trading periods here, September through mid-December, mid-September to mid-December tend to be good trading time just because the liquidity is back in the market. Everybody is back in the market and people are trying to close the year strong. And that's what I will be trying to do as well. So good trading time. If you guys are interested, I would love to have you join me. Otherwise, you guys have a wonderful rest of the day and I will see you next week again. Bye for now. You're welcome, everyone.